Hey all, Frosty here. I'm going to be doing a react to the 13.4 full patch preview. I know I missed 13.3, but you know, I've been moving house. But yeah, let's go into it. So beginning with the buffs, so we've got Vega, they're buffing the Q and the W, so they're increasing the cast range for both abilities. I think these are good buffs. It means that it's going to be safer for Vega to not only farm with the Q and poke, but also it'll be safer for Vega to then farm the stacks. So you will get into that, you'll hit your late game power spike and get those stacks quicker. So I think these are good buffs, and I like that they're trying to like move away from just buffing AP ratios and stuff like that. I think it's a bit more intelligent, and it kind of expresses the skill expression for like champions a bit more. So yeah, definitely like this buff, and I don't think it's too crazy. But I do think his play rate will increase because he's getting buffed, and I think his win rate will also increase due to the extra safety. Cho'Gath, he's getting some big buffs, so his armor is being buffed, he's now getting 5 per level. His rupture is also getting buffed, so damage is increased by 20 at rank 5, and the mana cost is also reduced by 10, and the Feral Scream mana cost is also reduced. So these are good buffs for both top lane Cho'Gath, mid lane Cho'Gath, as well as if you want to play AP Cho'Gath. You're a bit tankier, and you're also doing out more damage. Less mana means that you're also going to be able to do your abilities more often, which means that you'll be able to constantly fight a bit more. Not to mention that Cho'Gath's passive gives him HP and mana, so yeah, you'll be able to hit be able to use your abilities a lot quicker than before. I don't know, I definitely play rate increase for Cho'Gath. I don't know if this is going to make him better. His base damage is going to go up, but if you're going to play Cho'Gath, I think you want to be going more into the tanky route. So I don't know how big the damage buff on Q is going to be. I definitely think it's more going to be around. It's going to be easier for Cho'Gath to farm late game with the Q. I think the W buff is stronger because if you're in between these fights and you can use your W a lot more thanks to the mana cost reduction. Yes, but so Alistar buffs, so the passive is being buffed, the heal, and the Q and W AP ratio is being increased. Now, in terms of AP ratios for Alistar, you're only going to get AP if you're building properly. If you're going off meta Alistar, this is great. If you're building proper AP support Alistar, not proper AP, sorry, just proper support Alistar, the only AP you're really going to be getting is off Relic Shield. So I don't know how much damage that's going to add. It's going to be like, 0 to 5 essentially. So for off meta Alistar, I think these buffs are great. I'm definitely going to be having fun with them. But for proper support Alistar, the passive buff I think is the biggest one. Because engaged supports already got a bit of a buff in patch 13.3, so that they are a bit stronger and that they can lane a bit better against these enchanter supports. I think more healing is definitely going to put Alistar, not per se like S tier, but it's definitely going to be a bit more of a attractive pick. So I definitely think pick rate and win rate will increase. So Ahri, they increased the base HP by 20, base armor by 3, and they're reducing the cooldown of R. So base HP and base armor means that you'll be tankier from level 1, which means that you'll be able to stay in lane longer and you have a high chance of winning fights, especially if you're versing an AD mid laner now. The R buff is good for all game. It means that you can roam more and you can hit your power spike, and because your R is very strong and it lets you to reposition in the fights and on the map really quickly. So the R buff is really good, especially 80 seconds at late game. I don't know how much CDR, ability haste, an Ahri would get potentially, but I reckon that would be around 1 minute at level 18. So yeah, definitely think play rate is going to go up. Don't know about win rate. I think it'd stay the same, to be honest. I don't think these are too big. I think the only people who are really going to benefit from this are like Ahri 1 tricks or Ahri pros, because they'll be able to feel, that cooldown. They'll be able to feel like level 1, a bit tankier, and they'll also be able to feel the R buffs. So for Malphite, so they're buffing the W only, empowered armor ratio going up 5%, empowered attack cone armor ratio going up 5%, and the cooldown reduced. So the W for Malphite is your bread and butter for farming. It essentially acts kind of like Titanic Hydra. So the fact that they're buffing the armor ratio is good. It means that this is for tank Malphite, not for AP Malphite. Although for AP Malphite, the cooldown reduction is still an indirect buff. 2 seconds at rank 1 is pretty strong. It just means you're going to be able to farm quicker. Malphite does run out of mana very quickly though, so I don't know how much you're going to get out of that 2-second reduction at level 3, but I still think that it's a good buff, and more damage means that Malphite can potentially win more fights quicker. So I like the buffs. I think the play rate will go up. I don't know about the win rate though, because it is only one ability. Also depends on what team you're versing. These are armor ratio buffs. If you're versing mages, it's not going to really do much. So Viego, they've changed the Q passive. So on hit damage can now critically strike, and Heartbreaker missing HP ratio increased by 2% per 100 bonus AD. So the crit strike is pretty big. Viego does. So Viego's mythics of choice are Divine Sundra, Kraken, or Shield Bow. So for 2 of them, they do have crit on them, so that can enable the Q passive buff now, and essentially with the IE changes as well, you could go. I imagine you want to go Kraken, Shield Bow, and then Navori. I don't think you want to go IE. I think you want the bonus CDR. So I think that's going to be the build that Viego goes from now on, and I think that these buffs are really strong. More HP damage. Missing HP damage means that you are going to be doing more damage, and that you are going to get those executes and resets off quicker. So yeah, I think this is definitely going to bring Viego back into play, and I think increase in play rate and win rate. So Aphelios, they're buffing the attack speed. I think that's just the attack speed you get from leveling up. Aphelios was affected by the patch 13.1b ADC buffs as well as the itemized changes, so I think more attack speed means that Aphelios can crit more and do more damage in these fights. So early game you're probably not going to feel it, but late game you will feel a 9% increase, I feel like, at rank 5, level 18 I think. So yeah, I think these are good buffs. But again, I think it's more of the Aphelios one tricks and pros are going to feel this, and not the low elo players. So I think an increase in pick rate. I don't think there'll be an increase in win rate because Aphelios is so complex. And so while the pros are picking Aphelios a bit more and winning a bit more, the noobs are not going to be winning as much. So I think the win rate is going to stay the same. Senna, they're increasing the attack speed ratio by 0.1, and they're buffing the R. So cooldown reduction, now 100 seconds at rank 3, and the damage increase, now 550 at rank 3. So I think these are good buffs. My worry is Senna is the worst early game champion in the game, because of how strongly she scales. If you're ever versing Senna, always try and shut her down, always go aggressive in lane, and always try and kill her. So honestly, I don't know how much these buffs are going to do. If Senna can get to level 16, these buffs are good. These buffs are strong, and I like them. I play Senna as well. But usually, Senna can't do too much. Well, not usually, per se, but like until you hit 40 to 60 stacks, Senna is not the strongest. So we'll see. We shall see. I'm going to say an increase in pick rate because of its buff, and I'm going to say the win rate is going to stay the same. So Riven, they're buffing the passive. The damage scaling is now 30 to 60% total AD based on levels. Now deals damage to towers, that's a big one, and stacks are shown on the health bar for Riven only. So I like the quality of life change, so that they're giving the health bar for Riven. I think that's a good one. Sadly, it doesn't really help the enemy as it's only for Riven. So that's one thing, but I think that's good for Riven players. Dealing damage to towers is also good because if you're pushing a tower, you're still going to be using abilities to get your passive bonus AD. So I think that now that it deals damage to towers, I think that's pretty strong. I think Riven is going to be very strong in split pushing now. And I don't know how much this damage scaling has done because it was already 30 to 60%. I'm wondering if this is now saying that, level 2, because level 1 you're 30, and then level 2 you're 31, level 3 you're 33, etc. I wonder if that's now what they're saying. And if so, I think that is a quality of life buff because If you look here between levels 1 and 6, so level 1 you're 30, level 6 you're 36. Now you are getting that increase every single level. So yeah, I think that's a good buff. I think pick rate and win rate for Riven is going to go up. Riven, I don't know how much Riven is picked at the moment. I haven't really seen Riven, but Riven like one tricks and Riven pros, they are insane. So I think win rate is definitely going to go up for Riven. So Orianna, they're increasing the base armor by 3 and they are reducing the mana for W. So Orianna was buffed, I believe, in 13.1b or 13.1, and I said then that Orianna was going to be super strong, and it seems that she was, just in support. So again, these changes are definitely going to buff Orianna in support. As support Orianna, you really want to be using your W to the maximum effectiveness for movement speed and damage / slow. So I think these are strong buffs for that. Mid lane Orianna, again, the buff for armor doesn't really do much unless you're versing AD champions in the mid lane. I'd imagine you're going to be versing AD junglers now that AP junglers have been nerfed this patch, which we'll get to later. So I think the armor buff is good. And I think the mana cost is always good on a mage, especially if it's your big damage ability. So I think these are definitely good buffs for both mid lane and support Orianna, but I imagine support Orianna will come off better compared to mid lane. So I'm going to say an increase in pick rate and win rate. So now the nerfs. So Samira, they're adjusting the movement. Instead of just being 3.5% flat, it's now 1 to 4%, and the Inferno R trigger, the Inferno trigger lifesteal is now 50%. I like these nerfs. I hadn't versus Samira, but apparently since the crit itemization changes, she has been pretty much S tier, just below Draven. So I think the nerf on the movement speed is going to be huge. It means that, it's going to be harder for you to get into fights and chase, and the R nerf means that you are going to be not as crazy sustained in fights. So it is going to mean that you do die quicker. So yeah, I like these nerfs, and I think they're going to be a decrease in win rate and play rate. So Jax, who has been very prevalent in pro play, they're reducing base HP and they're increasing HP per level. So I think that will, I think you're losing 2 HP? 2 HP per level now, which is, no, I don't know that maths. But, okay. No, I'm not going to try that math. So your base HP reduced, your E is now, the AP ratio is now going down 30%, dodging attacks now increases all damage instead of just base, and the R is also nerfed the numbers. So what this means is that now Jax is going to be less tanky, more squishy, which means that if you're fighting Jax, even with ult up, you will be doing more damage, and Jax will also now be outputting less damage with the on-hit damage reduction. So I think that this means that Jax's counters are going to do a lot better, and I think that Jax is going to suffer not only just in lane but also in team fights as less squishy, less damage. So I think this is going to be a reduction in play rate and win rate. So Maokai, another one who is still prevalent in pro play. Q, the target's max HP ratio increased, and the E has been nerfed. So base damage and AP ratio has been decreased. Empowered slow has been increased. Empowered slow AP ratio decreased, and the cooldown has been 14 seconds. So it is more of an adjustment, I'd say. However, 4 seconds extra on your sapling means that your jungle clear is going to suffer quite a bit, which is, yeah. So if jungle clear is slower, that means you impact the map slower, which means that there's a higher chance that you will have to react to your opponent versus you setting the pace. It also means that in team fights, your E is one of the main things, as well as how you can cover the map a bit more, and you can do that less, which means that there's a higher chance that the enemy will now have objective control of brushes, etc. So I'm going to say, I reckon that this is a big nerf. I don't know if it's going to push Maokai out. We will have to see. But yeah, definitely a decrease in play rate and win rate. Elise, her Q damage has been nerfed, and the R spiderling damage has been reduced. So less damage means that you clear your jungle slower, which either means that A, you are on the map slower, or B, it means that you have to, if you want to impact the map at the same time, you have to either skip a camp. So you could go buff Gromp, buff Krugs. I don't know what Elise does at the moment, but I know Elise is pretty strong in terms of clear speed. But yeah, less damage also means that in fights, you'll be putting out more damage, which means that there's a high chance you will lose the fight. So I definitely think this is going to be a nerf to a decrease in play rate and win rate. Amumu, they're reducing the HP per level and armor, and they're also reducing the max HP ratio on W. So Amumu is now squishier and does less damage. Sorry. The armor is not too much, but the HP, I think you're losing what? Sorry, 6 times 10 is 60, 120, so around 114, 118, 108 HP you're losing at level 18, which is not a lot, but at level 1, losing HP in the early levels, losing HP is always going to hit you hard. It means that you're also going to take more damage while clearing your jungle. And because you do less damage, that means you're fighting the jungle camps for longer. So you'll always come out a bit squishier than before. So I think these are good nerfs. I think the play rate and win rate are going to decrease. But I don't think they're massive, game-changing nerfs. Udyr, the HP per level and armor has been reduced. The Q bonus AD ratio has been reduced. And the R Awakened slow has been reduced. So I have verse tank Udyr, and I must say it's one of the most annoying things. They just chuck the R out with Demonic Embrace and they just run around and kill you. It's really annoying. So HP and armor reduction means that you can kill Udyr quicker, which is always good. Like I said, I don't really like Udyr. Udyr is also going to be putting out less damage, which means... So the R is going to do the same amount of damage, and R, I'm pretty sure RQ are your main ways of jungling. So I don't think the clear speed is going to be hit, but damage in teamfights definitely will be hit. Slow reduction also means that if you're trying to kite an Udyr or run away, you have a high chance now of doing that too. / chasing Udyr if they are running away. So I think Udyr is going to have a decrease in play rate and win rate. Jarvan, the W is being nerfed, cooldown increased by 1 and the bonus AD ratio reduced. Jarvan apparently has been very strong. Excuse me. So these nerfs means that he's going to be squishier in fights, take more damage while taking jungle camps, and do less. And because now scales of AD, he's going to be shielded less. So Jarvan will be squishier in these fights, but still outputting the same amount of damage. So Jarvan, I think, is still scary, but he will be a bit squishier. So I think his play rate and win rate, I honestly think they're going to remain the same because his damage output is still the same. There might be itemization changes so that he's a bit tankier to make up for the W nerf, but I think that he's still going to be very strong in the next patch. Anivia, they're nerfing the base HP and armor per level. Anivia has been very strong, pretty much S tier ever since patch 13.1, so I can understand these nerfs. So HP and armor per level means that by level 18 Anivia will be squishier, and squishier means that you have a high chance of killing her. Early game, it's not going to do too much. Late game, maybe. Late game is when you'll probably feel it more. So I think there's going to be a decrease in play rate because she's nerfed, but I think her win rate is going to stay the same because, once again, your damage output is still the same, and by level 18, if you have like Zhonya's or, Demonic Embrace, any of these HP mage items, you're going to still be really tanky. So Azir, they're reducing the base mana by 100, they're increasing the mana per level by 15, the W is being nerfed in how many the recharge time for soldiers, shifting sands damage increase and R damage increase. So 100 mana less at level 1 means that it's going to be much harder for you to farm. Doing the maths, 100 divided by 15 is around 16, 17. So that 100 mana you lose, you get back, but at late game, around level 16, level 17. So yeah, so that is an interesting adjustment. I think SEA is going to be very weak in Elo, just like low Elo. I don't even know, Pro Elo and Pro Play. The E and the R damage, it is a hefty amount. At rank 3, you're doing 600 plus 75% of your AP, so that's around 800, 900. That's a lot of damage. The E shifting sands damage is also a lot, 40 at rank 5 with an extra 15% AP ratio. I don't know. I don't think these damage buffs are going to do too much because you're going to be outputting a lot less damage early on because you can't cast as many spells with the base mana reduction. So if you can get, I think it's a bit like Senna, if you can get to level 16, I think you'll do very well. But if your opponent, snowballs and wins lane and, you can't farm and you're a bit obsolete, I think it's going to hit very hard. And sadly, I think you're also going to get flamed because this is a lot. So I definitely think a decrease in win rate and play rate. In pro play, they might find ways to get around this, more jungle presence, etc. But I think in just ranked solo queue, I think Azir is not going to be seen a lot. So champion adjustments. Thresh, they're buffing the Q, the damage, they're reducing the cooldown, they're reducing the shield and they're adjusting the cooldown, and the damage on Flay is being increased. So Thresh passively gains AP through the stacking of souls. So these AP ratios increase means that there will be more damage in Thresh's kit. I think it's like 0.5 or 0.75. It's not a lot of AP, right? But it's still a passive way of gaining AP. So I think that damage can have a bit of an impact, and a small one, a minor one, but it'll still have an impact. The cooldown reduction, I think, are the big ones because you'll be going tanky, and cooldown adjusted earlier, that it's buffed, I think is interesting. I think it means that they want Thresh to now make more plays early on, and I guess that's why they're adjusting the max order, which means that you only need to put 1 point in W because it'll already be buffed. The shield reduction definitely going to hurt, but I think the damage increase kind of does balance it out. So I think Thresh is definitely going to see an increase in play rate. I think Thresh will definitely be back. And I also think an increase in win rate. System buffs. So they are buffing Relic Shield and Targon's HP regeneration. I think this is really good, and I think it's another buff to the engaged supports, which is really good, just to give them a bit more equal footing against the enchanters. They're also nerfing Spell Thief and Spectral, which is really good. I really like that, and it means that there's a higher chance you won't be seeing Marksman and Enchanters in support. Magical footwear, they're also reducing the sellback gold. So if you don't know, or if you're confused about this one, what some champions would do is they'd take magical footwear and then they would sell it to gain 210 gold, because then you would get to your item quicker, which is really smart, by the way. It's really clever. And Riot sadly are ruining your fun, and they're now making it so it's only 90 gold back. So you can still do it, it's just you won't hit your item spike as quicker, sorry. Demonic Embrace are also nerfing, so it's now capped at 40 damage per tick against monsters. I think that's big. That's going to nerf Maokai, Zac, all those tanky mage junglers. So I think Maokai is definitely bottom of people's tier lists. They're also nerfing Treasure Hunter, so you now get 100 gold less. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't really know what champions are taking Treasure Hunter. I imagine junglers, it would be good on junglers as well as assassins. And 100 gold reduction, I think, is around 3. It's essentially a 1 minion wave, right? So it's not the biggest nerf. It's definitely a nerf, but I don't think it's too big. Like I said, if you do the maths, it's roughly around, you're missing 1 wave now from this rune. So I still think it's worth taking the rune. Takedown experience. Kills against enemies at your level as percentage progress to your next level reduced. I don't really know what to say around this one. I guess this means that it's kind of... Okay, hold on. Kills against enemies above your level as an additional percentage progress to your next level adjusted. Okay. It's 0 at level 1. That's interesting. Because I was going to say, I thought, when I read this, I was like, okay, this seems to be a comeback mechanic. But no. Well, yeah, no, it's not. I guess this just means that games are going to go a bit longer because you're going to stay at these levels quicker. Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, yeah, okay. Also, that's... Hang on. Okay, so what this means is that you're not going to level up as fast anymore from killing enemies. I think this is the ganking balancing stuff they're doing. So it was like now this way if you choose a farming jungler, you can still be on level wise. You can still keep up if the other person is just a ganking jungler. So I think that's what these adjustments are for. But yeah, I think what it's going to do is it's going to make the games last longer, and you're going to be in that early level 1 to 10 stage for longer. And this means for champions like Azir and Senna, etc., who need to get to rank 16 and KO, I think it is an indirect nerf because it's going to be harder to get, it's going to be longer to get to your power spike. System adjustments, jungle pet essentially has been nerfed. So you get more healing, but the AP ratio is nerfed. So all AP junglers essentially are now going to be doing less damage. So your clear is going to be a bit slower. Which means that AD champions, AD junglers like Jarvan, Viego, etc., I think are going to be S tier, and AP champions are going to be lower. And the final thing that they've nerfed is Doran's Shield. HP for 5 seconds is now 4 instead of 6. This means your sustain is less, which means there's a higher chance you will have to back reset. If you're, fighting in the top lane or in bot lane. So I definitely think that, I don't know if it means you're going to be getting Doran's Blade instead of Doran's Shield, but it's definitely a nerf, and it's probably going to increase Doran's Blade's pick rate. But yeah, so that's patch 13.4. In terms of winners, so in terms of losers, AP junglers, sad to say, that is what it's looking like. In terms of winners, I honestly think Viego and Riven are the biggest winners here. The Malphite buffs are pretty good, the Alistar buffs, again, Cho'Gath as well. So I think top lane is going to get a bit more attention, and I think we're going to be seeing a bit more AD champions, which is going to be interesting because we really haven't seen much fighters after patch 13.1b, I believe. So yeah, if you like this content, please make sure to like and subscribe if you've made it to the end, which I very much appreciate. And yeah, thank you all for watching / listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!